Kia ora te whānau, nau mai hoki mai ki tēnei kaupapa, the Planting Seeds podcast. Very fortunate to have our next guest on, and he goes by the name of Matua Pouroto Ngaropo. Nau mai ki tēnei hōtaka Pouroto, kei te pēhea.
Kei te pai, kia ora rāniera. Yeah, right here in the heart of Mātirero.
Yep, that's
the
it.
Place where Toro and Puhi and Muriwai, planted their kai right here. So, yeah, this feels really beautiful. Can feel the wairua.
Yeah.
It's right here, right now with you and I. So, tēnā koutou katoa. Kua tai mai ahau ki te kōrero ki a koe rāniera. Me ngā kōrero e pāna ki te wā o tira te kōwhiringa pōti. Kaupapa nui tēnei, hei kōrero hei wānanga mā ngā rangatahi.
Yeah.
So just thank you for the opportunity. You're looking forward to having a discussion with Rāniera, especially with the up-and-coming elections. And, does that have any significance and importance to rangatahi? Absolutely it does. So we're going to talk to Rāniera and with you all today in terms of what the election's all about. So
cool.
Thank you for having me today.
Awesome, Matua, and I think it's such an important thing to have Māori representatives within the council just to try and help with the decisions that are being made at that level. But before we do get into that, what are some of the, what's something more about you that we all need to know as rangatahi, but just as people who are listening, because, the things that I've seen ever since I was young, you've always been someone that people have always looked up to, especially in this, to who we are as Māori. You've done such a great job to uphold yourself as well as to share the important stories of who we are as Māori, because I believe it's in the stories that really help us identify who we really are. So how did all of your journey really start in this space?
Kia ora. I hope I'm a 50-year-old rangatahi.
Yeah.
That's sort of getting older in age, but in my heart and in the way I think, I'm hoping that today, it's an opportunity to connect to the most important part of our community.
Right.
Ka pūteruha ka hao te rangatahi. The new net goes fishing in terms of our future leadership of tomorrow. So, as a rangatahi myself at 12, I was really inspired by our kaumātua. I was brought up by my great-grandfather, Tamehana, my grandmother, Mihipe Kamoana between Rotoiti, Rotama and Matata. So, yeah, that was an important years for my coming into the world. In fact, my great-grandfather buried my pito, my umbilical cord, and my whenua at Rotoiti under the mountain Matawhaura.
Right.
So that sort of gave me a strong connection to everywhere in the Bay of Plenty, particularly here, Whakatane, Rotoma and Matata, which are really important places of my upbringing. So my name is Pouroto. My name comes from the north, and my tribal connections there are Te Rarawa and Ngāpuhi. I connect to the families there. There's the Leafs and the Pōmares, also the Te Wakes, the Te Fews, and the Ngaropo family around, particularly in Hokianga, Pangaru and Waiho. So my name, Pouroto, comes from the north. I'm also connected to Ngāti Maniapoto, Waikato. My great-grandmother, mum's grandmother, is an Ormsby.
Right.
So that's the Maniapoto connection to the Tainui Waka. My mum's father is from Tauranga Moana. Ngai Te Rangi Nui, Ngāti Pukenga. Taketimu Waka, Ngāti Rangi Nui, and Mātātua Waka there in Tauranga, Ngai Te Rangi, Ngāti Pukenga. My mum's mother is also a gardener, so there's our Scottish side.
Right.
I've got a Scottish name too, Hamilton.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That connects me to my clans of Henderson, Ross, Gordon, and Gunn. So that's the Scottish side. So one of my middle names is Hamilton.
Right.
Connecting to that side of me. That's Ngāti Pikiao, connections to Rotoiti, Ngāti Mākino, Ngāti Hinekura, Ngāti Rangi Wewehi. So those are really strong ties there. The Gardner family. So my father's mother's a Rota, and her mother's a Wihapi. So the Rotos are from Ngāti Umutahi, Matata, Ngāti Rangitihi, Tuwhareto ki Kawero. So those are my links there, and my father's grandmother's a Wihapi from Te Puke.
Wow.
Waitaha, Tūhaurangi. Finally, my father also is from Te Whānapanui. You might remember the Uncle Bill Tāwhai, the Tāwhais and the Koro Tāwhai, Aubrey Tāwhai, they're all my uncles. So my connection to Te Whānau Rutaia, Te Whānapanui. I have a connection to Tūhoi through Te Purewa, who had Rangirawaka, Mihi Kore Te Aruhe, Wihapi, Kare, Nan, Dad, and us. So those are those connections. But of course, the stronghold in terms of where I live is of course Ngāti Awa. So Te Tāwera, Matata is one of my hapu, Tai Whakaia, Hikikino, Rangi Hauhiri, and then also Pahipoto e Koko Hino, Ngai Tamawera, and Te Patuai. So Ngāti Awa is my main tribe. I also have English descent. One of my other names is Nicholas. So Pouroto Nicholas is one of my ancestors was Nicholas Connaught.
Right.
He was the commander of Queen Elizabeth's army in England.
Wow.
So that's my connection there. And also Cherokee Indian in my father's bloodlines as well. So Irish, Scottish, English, French, and Cherokee Indian. So that's a little bit about who I am. I went to school at Hatopetera College. So I went to school down here till I was 9. Then my parents moved to Auckland for work. And then we lived there and amongst many Māoris that were migrating for work. And then I went to Hatopetera College and finished my UE. And then I went training, then went to Wānanga, then I went into teaching. So I was a school teacher. And kura kapapa Māori and kohanga and mainstream as well. And then from there, I went and worked at the Whare Wānanga o Awanuarangi as the project management for iwi development, maurako, haka, cultural performing, arts, the art of whai kōrero, customs, traditions, karakia tawhito.
Wow.
So I carried that for 4 years.
Wow.
Then I became a lecturer, Te Whare Wānanga, Awanuarangi. But at that same time, at the age of 22, I was appointed hapu leader of my hapu.
Wow.
Te Tāwera. How old are you?
27.
Yeah, at 22, I was given the Māori or the speaking rights from my father. So I was really young, speaking on the marae, but also cooking at the back, cleaning the toilets, mowing the lawns, looking after the urupa, and setting tables and being part of the whole process of the marae. So I started at a very young age in terms of leading our hapu and the chairman of our marae.
Wow.
And I've been the chairman of our hapu since, and I still am, right up to now, 1992 to now, 2019. So been on Ngāti Awa Tribal Authority at the same time. I was deputy chairman there for about 12 years, and I've been a negotiator for our treaty claims as well. I've been involved with council. Actually, the council, you think, well, what's important about getting involved with council? So that's a little bit a part of sort of my background and what I've done. I did work as a project manager in the Bay of Plenty District Health Board for 15 years. Sitting on Māori land trusts. I think at the most in the last 20 odd years I've sat on 30.
Far out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Sounds like you've just got so much experience, Matua. And the thing that I sort of like want to double back on is you really know who you are from your connections through your great grandparents, through your parents. And what's something that you would suggest for, because a lot of the people that sort of tune into this podcast are passionate about being Māori, but they don't really know their connections or who they are. And there's a big awareness that there are a lot of disconnected people out there. So for someone who I perceive or know to be very connected to who he is. Where's someone, because obviously when you know who you are, you're sort of opened up to so many experiences that you can sort of go into. It gives you the confidence to make better decisions. So for the people that are listening who might want to start somewhere to sort of either go into whakapapa or reconnect to the land, where's a good place to start for that?
Yeah, I I agree. And in our generation coming through, we had no kohanga reo. We had no kura kaupapa Māori. So we had to also, fight hard for our reo. And our reo to be recognised, our reo to be spoken, to reclaim back our Māori names in terms of who we are, So the whole colonisation process, taking the land, taking away our mana as a people to have the right to determine our lives from a Māori way of life, be it fishing, swimming, be it mātauranga Māori in terms of the Māori approach and our knowledge and history and how we live our lives. Those things have changed drastically for us.
Right.
So it's important that we need to reconnect back to our cultural identity. Number one, our spiritual origins.
Right.
So without that spiritual connection, then you walk around in life without really having a purpose.
Right.
So that's important. You need to find yourself and ground yourself in your spiritual beliefs. Number two, generally you would know the names you carry on mum and dad's side. So generally that's a good place to start. Looking at your family names, who you are, where you come from, the maraes that you connect to, and decide which marae you're going to learn about first.
Right.
Is a good starting point, because most of us have more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't discard any.
Sure.
Embrace them all, and take the time to put that sort of time aside to go back home if you live away from home. If you know some of the families, just go back and connect with them, especially uncle and auntie and nanny and koro, or your cousins, and that's really key in terms of connecting to those families. Don't be mataku. They're there, the families want you to come home.
There's also that whakamā aspect, eh?
Oh, yeah, and don't be shy. I mean, once you get past that barrier, it's if you haven't been brought up in a place, it's hard to connect to it, but you have a right to connect to it.
Sure.
Your ancestors are from there, your land's there, your marae is there, and, whānau is still there. Don't be whakamā, just take that step.
Right.
And have confidence to connect back to who you are. So connect back to your mana whenua, where you come from. Then generally, in time, you'll get to go to some wānanga, get to know the people, work in the back, in the kitchen.
Right.
Yeah, good. It's a good thing to go back to the kitchen and work and peel potatoes. That's where you start learning your whakapapa.
Yeah.
Who you are, where you come from, making the connections to the families.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to make that connection. And then, of course, in time there'll be wānanga. You'll find out the key people, who have the whakapapa, the genealogy, and they'll host the marae for hapu wānanga. There's an opportunity there to learn. So there's so many opportunities you can learn directly at home. You also can go online. There's a lot of history in terms of the Waitangi Tribunal documentation, all the history that's already there, recorded. Māori Land Court records, Māori Land Court itself, our libraries. But, as a starting point, find out who you are, your mountain, find the name of your river, where your land is, where your marae, the name of the marae, the meeting house, the dining room, the sub-tribes of your marae, your tribe and your waka. And from there, you can take the next stage in terms of your learning. So, kaue whakamā, as Oni is saying, break that whakamā down. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be afraid to be born what you're supposed to be.
Sure.
Don't be afraid to reconnect back to your cultural identity.
Fine. I think you said something powerful, like you have a right our ancestors are from those places, so we shouldn't have that sort of whakamā or shyness about it because we belong there.
That's
you
right.
know. And I think when we're talking about our tūpuna, there was something when we caught up earlier this year, there was something that you said that just stuck with me. When we're talking about all of our kōrero about our tūpuna, and then you said, well, 5,000 years ago was only yesterday.
Yes.
You know, so where does that sort of thinking come from?
That sort of thinking, they call it a big flash word in English, epistemology. And in Māori we call it simply aho matua, or ahorangi. There are many terms. It's our philosophical, spiritual, ancestral, our cultural way of life, and how we think, how we breathe, how we see the world, how we live and embrace the world. So it comes through our connectedness to 4 things I mentioned earlier, Raniera. It comes through, number 1, mana atua, connecting to that spiritual link, from io to te kore, to te pō, to rangi and papa, and to taiao, to the environment around us. That's important because the spirit of life that is in us is connected into everything around us. Ooh.
Oh, I just got the chills.
Yeah. So that 5,000 sort of year connection, you know, there's no beginning and there's no end. We have that saying, mā te wā.
Mm.
And the now is all time.
Wow.
So as we sit here, 5,000 years ago is here. And the generations that haven't been born, they're here with us.
Wow.
So these are the things, through the singing, through the chants, like a whakatauki, like simply this, e kore au e ngaro,
E kore au e ngaro,
he kākano,
he kākano,
I ruia mai,
I ruia mai,
I rangi Aotea.
I rangi Aotea.
So I will never be lost, for I am a sacred seed planted in rangi Aotea from my ancestors. So, you know, that's that God-given right, the ancestral given right to be who we are in terms of the history and the knowledge of knowing who we connect to. So 5,000 years ago is a belief that in the now is all time.
Wow.
That we live in 3 dimensions, actually,
Yes.
in the one moment. 3 dimensions in the one moment.
Wow.
So that thinking has been handed down through our DNA,
Right.
through our ira. So we've got 2 parts to our DNA. There's the ira atua
Ira atua,
and the ira tangata.
ira tangata.
So there's the spiritual DNA. That's where there's no beginning and no end.
Yeah, it's all time.
Oh, that's all time, yeah. And the ira tangata is living in the time, location and place where we are. Yeah, but the time that we have has been allotted to us. It's not permanent because it's the physical side of ourselves.
Right.
But it's to understand spiritually where you come from. It connects us back to our spiritual creator. And that's the beginning of time and the end of time. There's no the end of time. No beginning and no end. Mana whenua, connecting to all the places that we locate through our whakapapa, connects our ancestral connections in their footprints.
Right.
And then there's the mana tupuna. It's our connecting to all our ancestors and where they come from. Even our Pākehā side.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can't neglect that, eh?
You know, because in every one of us, the DNA of Scottish, Irish, English, French, those are sort of primarily ancestral links that most of us have
Sure.
today in 2019.
Yeah.
And we carry that DNA with us. Some of us have Indian. Some of us have Australian, Aboriginal. Some of us Cherokee Indian, like myself. So it's embracing the whole self.
Sure.
Yeah, and then the now is all time. Then with the mana tangata, it defines specifically why we are here. Wow. Our purpose.
Wow.
So those are the things that are important for our rangatahi and for all audiences, I suppose, too.
Yeah.
And all people, you know, particularly for us as tangata whenua, whānau, hapu, iwi, and waka, Māori. But, you know, In terms of the discussion about why we need to look at Māori representation.
Yeah.
These are some of the reasons why.
Yeah.
That this, and Daniel is right, this way of thinking, this way of seeing things and expressing ourselves needs to be seen, felt and expressed
Yes.
in council.
I believe that. I really do believe that, because if we have someone like you sort of in that space, disrupting, but also doing it with manaaki, in that it allows people in council, especially the Pākehā, to sort of feel who we are, how we see, how we experience things, but also for someone like myself, and I'm sure many others, there's just seems to be like a barrier between how do we build a relationship with a system that's against us. You know, when there's sort of that intergenerational sort of trauma that the system, the government, their council continues to push us to the side. You know, so how do we bridge that gap? Because I feel, and I've heard this kōrero that we hate what we don't understand. So I think having you here might bridge that gap to try and help us understand what it actually means for Māori to have representatives within local council, but also in the government level as well.
Oh no, it's a really good question, and you know it's not unfamiliar to us and to our rangatahi. Any structure, any Pākehā organisation that's foreign to us can be quite overwhelming and overpowering. So just to let you know that the whole idea behind this, the current structure and what we're working with now in terms of how it's not user friendly, because it came from what we call the chain of being. Now the chain of being is a European universal concept that they believe that they have. This is their whakapapa, the genealogy, God at the top. Then they have under that the archangels, and under that the angels, and then the king or queen, the monarch. And then after that you have the sort of the higher and the lower house of structure in society, which they call the bourgeois, you know.
Wow.
Bourgeois, fresh, sort of beautiful French word, which means the middle and upper classes. The lords, the earls, the barons,
Right.
the sirs, you know. And then under that, the commoners, serfs, peasants, men first, then women, then children. And then at the lower end of everything is the earth.
Wow.
The earth.
At the end.
At the end. So all this structure, in terms of how the council works, is based upon this European structure.
Wow.
Yes, and it's different to us because our structure is the other way around.
Yeah, it's sort of reversed.
It's reversed, eh? So us as Māori come from a reverse philosophy of that structure, you know, which we come from the Creator, Eo. Everything is universally connected as one.
Right.
The trees, the plants, the birds, the ocean, they are our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
We are connected, you know. And in fact, in the genealogy, we all connect to everything around us. We are the mountain, and the mountain is us.
It's us.
Ko hau te maunga ko te maunga ko au. Ko hau te whenua ko te whenua ko au.
Ko hau ko te whenua ko te whenua ko au.
Beautiful. Ko hau te wai ko hau.
Ko hau te wai ko te wai ko au.
I am the water and the water is me. So there is the interconnectedness of all things. Foo, beautiful, eh? That's the thinking of the 5,000, the 6,000 in the now is all time. And so from the universe, then we came from Hine Ahuone, the first female, Hine Titama, and then from there, us, our ancestors, and then to us. Whānau hapu iwi, marae. So, yeah, that's the whole structure has changed, and no wonder it can be quite scary and overwhelming, because the whole structure of the European structure is power and control.
Yeah. So
the structure makes us not comfortable because there's a disconnection.
Yes.
There's no connection. So I am in charge, and you will follow, and I will tell you what to do. Whereas ours is, no, we are connected to everything around us. How can we work together to ensure that everything is in balance?
Wow. Unity across our communities.
Unity across our communities. So that whole concept of unity across our communities, that's my vision for us, from our tipuna, our ancestors. So we want that unity across our communities. We want our rangatahi to not feel that they can't connect to, to the structure of council. So I'll just give you the history, the raupatu. We were tangata whenua here for well over 2,500 years. Pākehā colonisation came. New Zealand settlements legislation confiscated our lands in 1862. We had kaitiakitanga over 66 million acres of land. We lost 63 million acres of land.
Wow.
Through raupatu, through force, through killing our people in terms of the battles of the Māori land wars between Māori and Pākehā. And, of course, then the Māori Land Court was another mechanism where land was, at one time, was communally owned by whānau hapuniwi. Then it became, individual certificates of title. Most of the land was then cut up and given to different families, different people for European settlement. Schools were developed, native schools, where our culture and our language was now no longer the norm.
Wow.
And so we've had that imposed upon us for over nearly 200 years. To make it even more sort of interesting for us to learn about, in 1866, all the lands here in Whakatane were confiscated, over 250,000 acres. Some lands were given back, but the majority of the lands were kept for settlement. And then there were other lands then taken as well in 1882, when the Whakatane District Council then set up what they called two borough councils at the time, Raniera. Mm-hmm. There's the borough council in Murupara. They had its own mayor, and the borough council here for Whakatane. So there were sort of two councils going at the time, and the council's job at that time was to take more land for settlement and to look after and establish settlers.
Wow.
In our district. So, for example, our cave down Muriwai's cave,
yep.
That was blown up and dynamited for roads.
Far
so
out.
council dynamited the rocks down at the heads in the name of progress. So there wasn't enough Māori representation in council at that time to make sure that those lands that were taken not only through the raupatu, confiscation, but also when council was established, especially Public Works Act,
Far out.
Roading Act, all these acts were deliberately to set up and establish towns. So
wow.
just to let you all know, council is so important really in terms of our representation on there, because from 1882 till now, 2019, there has not been many Māori representations on there. Particularly when we've got, living in our district here, we're pretty rich with the special iwi we have here, living here with us. We've got upokorehe ngā whakatō here. So the land goes as far as Te Kōti Road, out to Paparoa to Matakerepu.
Yep.
So that's, upokorehe whakatō here. We have tūhoi. They live in Waimana, Tāne atu Ruatoki, and as far as Maunga Pohatu, and Ruatahuna and Waiohau. We have Ngāti Whare living out at Te Whaiti in Minginui.
Yep.
Whirinaki. We have Ngāti Manawai at Murupara. We have Ngāti Tūwhare tō ki Kawerau at Onepu. We have Ngāti Rangiti. We have Ngāti Awa. So
wow.
we have about 48% Māori living here with 51%, 52% Pākehā.
Wow.
And we have 1% Indian, 1% Polynesian, and 1% Asian.
Wow.
Our population here is about 34,607 people. So the uniqueness that we have as the Whakatane District Council is that the council is responsible for 4,500 kilometres of roading, So all the roading, including down here in Wairaka, everywhere that we go in the district, council has to maintain and look after roading in terms of road safety.
Right.
You enjoy going to the pools sometimes and the beaches, and
Yep.
so the council is responsible, for example, the aquatic centre, all our halls, our local cemetery up here, and our crematorium at Hillcrest. And there are numerous cemeteries along the main road, for example. One out at Awakapunga, Matata. We have another urupa down in Tāneatua, just out of Tāneatua going towards Waimana.
Yep.
We have a urupa also out at Gilitia, along sort of heading out to Murupara. So, council, our rangatahi, I'm sure you like going to our Te Kōputu Whangatoi, which is the library,
Yep.
museum and the art gallery all in one. That's our services that council provides for us.
Right.
All forms of water, drinking water, sewage water, rain, those are all the different, services that council is responsible for in terms of the services, parks, reserves, and actually the welfare and the well-being of our community safety.
Right.
Community safety. They call that the infrastructure, sewage. So, like when we look at the Māori of our people today, that's based upon the services that council is responsible in looking after for us.
Right.
Including wāhi tapu sites, like our heritage sites, like Muriwai's Cave, Wairere Falls,
Toys. Te ngā tapuai o toi.
Ngā Tapuai o Toi, just to name a few, Te Tahi's Rock down at Valley Road, Pōhatua Rock in town, the eyesight in town, the Otua Whaki and various other sites. That's all looked after and administered by council.
What about events, Pouroto? Because there's sort of like nothing happening around here for rangatahi in terms of where's the things here for rangatahi to engage? There's no sort of tempen bowling or, something like that, because I think there's a whole lot for, even when we look down the strip of Whakatane, there's not much vibrancy happening there. It's all sort of marketed or it's there for sort of the elder elderly people community, the older community.
I totally agree. Yeah. No, well, that's the reason today that I'm really pleased to be with Raniera, one of our future leaders of Whakatoa here, Mātātua, that it's important that we communicate to you, to our rangatahi. That vibrancy that we lack is because the leadership needs to reflect that.
Right.
And we need to have a leadership that's going to connect and reconnect. And, we have a rangatahi council, a youth council, but the representation needs to have full representation of our rangatahi.
Right.
That can be improved on by a lot. We need your help. We want the rangatahi to have the things that they want, the things that we need to ask what you want, not think what we think you should have.
Right.
So that would be a change that definitely, if I'm elected the mayor, the change is that we need more voice of our rangatahi to be heard in the decisions of council. We need more in terms of the events.
Yeah.
So that our rangatahi can take full leadership and guide us in terms of, what can make this community of ours more vibrant. We need you to guide us in terms of the connections between. There is a disconnection between Ohope and Whakatane.
Yeah, there is.
And
you feel it too, eh?
Yeah. So there's unity across our communities is really the kaupapa that I believe is important. I know that it's in Māoritanga. For us, it's whanaungatanga and our whakapapa. So it's not a new thing for us, but we need to. These are the changes that need to happen in council. We need to have more reflection of the values of the community in which we live.
Right.
We need to have more reflection of the rangatahi in which we live here, so that vibrancy, those ideas of our rangatahi can be included in the events, in other things that we need to ensure that you want us to do to make you feel proud and actually more so engaged in a part of the community. Because the council doesn't have the rangatahi walking alongside us. I mean, it's understandably so in terms of the weight of the community right now.
Right. Yeah, you're so right. And like I look around and like I'm pretty active within the rangatahi space, and you know I do just look around and I feel really, really sorry for some of our rangatahi who are just like biking around on their bikes, who are just sort of chilling out at the skate park. There's just a lack of innovation for rangatahi to keep them stimulated, you know, so I think that sort of pushes them into making wrong choices, or you know, doing other things just to keep themselves entertained.
So if I was elected the mayor, and I would come and the first 100 days, the full council would come out and engage. The long-term plan, you know, which has been set, which basically looks after everything for us. There is the rangatahi component of that, and I would say, you know, I would come and ask you as a rangatahi and say, what are some of the things that you could tell us that we need to ensure that's in our long-term vision that would make our community more exciting than what it is today?
Right.
What would some of the responses be from yourself?
For me, something I'd like to see, and just because when we're here in Whakatane, like we're just so blessed because there's just so much beauty in terms of, you know, the nature. Like people don't really want to go and walk Ngā Tapu Wai to enjoy the scenic views all the time. When I go and do it, all I just see is Pākehā or like people who are visiting. You know, we've got the skate park, but I think the things that I'd like to see is something like a Tempa Baoli alley, or, you know, where rangatahi can just go there. It has like spaces in it, or something even just redoing the skate park, or having more activities. Like I remember I went up to council to try and get an outdoor fitness park happening because, you know, my thoughts is not everyone really has the money to go to the gym, but if there was something that was out sort of for the community to use, to whakapakari tinana, to train, to feel good about themselves, I think just more options I feel around that space, because I think at the moment, like I said, in summer, everyone just wants to be outdoors. So if we just have more activities in that space, events, I think events would be awesome. You know, having, you know, we only have one here, which is something that happens down at the heads there once a year, which is in January, and it's a food market.
Why don't we have One Love concert here?
Well, exactly. Why don't we have like a matatini or any, also, you know, just some like more events just to bring people here, but to also get us all, give us all, like especially people who are in business or people who aspire to have their own business. It gives a platform for them to actually exercise. Maybe this is something that they want to do. You know, I have a kai store. If there was more events, I could have a kai store and bring in a rangatahi to give them that work experience. So there's just more opportunities out there, but you know, we've got the beautiful hometown to do it. People will probably see downtown, they'll see empty shops. It might spark people to have more business ideas to, you know, bring more economics into our community. So there's so much that can be done. But like I said, I just feel that even when I went in with my ideas, it was just very, very difficult to sustain the energy to follow through with it, because it just felt like once I got through that barrier, another one just kept placing, and then there was the factor of time. So it's just about, finding that, building that relationship, I feel.
Yeah, no,
you
definitely.
know?
So the first, if I'm elected the mayor, and I believe it's time for us now to consider having a Māori mayor for our district, because of the relationships, as you said. And we have a huge Māori population, Pākehā population. It's about how we are able to move together to bring that knowledge of understanding and strengthening us to work together in partnership together. So I would say in the first 100 days, we would come out and engage and ask and make sure that those are the priorities of what happens after that.
Yeah.
So that those things are actioned. I know that we need to look at where we need to shift the priority. And I think the need and the shift is to go back to the basics,
Yeah.
to get our communities humming, to get our communities happy, because I think that's another thing that's also missing, as well as the voice of our rangatahi, absolutely. To also ensure that some of the roads that are, like for example, some of our roads in the area, like in Rātoki, say for example down in Pouroto,
Yeah.
they've been there since 30 years or more.
Sure.
So there's a lot of some of the places that haven't got a park. Some of the places, and I like the idea of training facility outdoors. Sounds absolutely wonderful. I love the idea about 10-pin bowling. Yeah, I love the idea. Actually, it sort of makes me realise that a lot of the ideas of the rangatahi are key in terms of the unity across our communities, because we want a community that's healthy, thriving, that's strong in our culture and our heritage, that acknowledges and respects our Māori and our non-Pākehā, our non-Māori community, our Pākehā colleagues, that we recognise everyone that lives in our community, but also the rangatahi's ideas must be part of the future leadership moving forward. And I want this to be a vibrant place for us all. So certainly those ideas are wonderful.
Yeah,
Man,
I honestly feel that, and I feel times are changing, Pouroto. I honestly feel that Māori are starting to stand up a little bit taller and standing in their mana motuhake, standing in their truth and being their beacon for us all. And I think you raised a good point, especially going into the more rural parts, the Murupara, the Poroporo, the Ruatoki. And I think it sort of takes someone who is Māori to really feel the aroha for those places who are sort of on the outskirts, because there's their natural thing, like they're feeling like they're left out. So I think it's important that you sort of say, unity across all communities, because I really feel and have a sense that there are a lot of dysfunctional whānau out there in these communities. And I feel seeing someone who's in this leadership role, who is Māori, who we can connect to, it brings and instills that sense of hope. And I think that is something that's really powerful if it's nurtured right. And so if we were to sort of, what's the next step for us as voters? How would we help you on your journey to help us on ours?
Well, the most important message today that I want to share with you all, Rāniera, is really I want each of our rangatahi, particularly between 18 and 23. There's nearly close to over 2,500+ votes there.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That can make a huge change and a huge shift. Second point, I want you to know that your vote counts. That it can help change and shift the direction of the leadership that you want in terms of our community. Because in the end, it's the leadership that we put in through the vote that determines who's going to be leading our waka.
Wow.
And that's all the tin pin bowling, the initiatives that you want in terms of innovativeness. I love the idea of the outside gym. That's what we need to ensure through your vote that can enable those that actually have the heart of the people as paramount.
Right.
Having the accountability back to the people is paramount. One of my main policies is te mana o te iwi, so that the rangatahi's voice and the community's voice is heard in council. What I mean by that is that if I'm elected mayor, will not continue to have our council meetings only in chambers of council.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah, we need to go out to our rangatahi and have meetings there amongst them. We need to go to the maraes. We need to go to the community halls. We need to go wherever we need to go so we can be fully engaged.
That's it.
With our rangatahi.
Yeah.
And give them a voice in our meetings to speak.
Wow.
So that's one of the big changes that I'm wanting to propose.
Cool.
As the servant of our people, if I'm privileged enough to be elected and thought as a candidate for the mayoralty, I acknowledge all the candidates that are standing this year. I also acknowledge all the candidates standing for councillors throughout the district. As you know, Raniera, your vote will put in the councillor for Tāne Atua Ward, Waimana Ruatoki. One councillor. There's 3 going there this year. Your vote will contribute and be part of the decision making who you put in to look after your rights as a member of our community, as rangatahi. There's 5 councillors that you will nominate for Ohope and Whakatane, and there's 17 nominations this year.
Wow.
Your vote will also put in the Rangitaiki ward. There's 8 going there, and there's 3 councillors that will go for that ward, 3. And then, of course, Murupara, Waiohau, Galatia, Ruatahuna, and Maunga Pohatu, 1 councillor. There's 3 candidates going there. And there's 7 candidates going for the mayoralty.
Right.
So 1 vote, 1 mayor. 1 vote for the mayor. So your vote, that's nearly 2,800 votes.
Wow.
Will have a huge impact in terms of the future direction that our district will take.
Will go. And the thing that was explained to me that really helped me see it was there's 9 seats, is there, on council?
There's 10.
So there's 10
seats, yes, and including the mayor.
Okay.
So there's 11.
So there's 11. And what was said to me was,
Yes.
so if there was 5 councillors voting against and there were 5 councillors voting for, the last vote belongs to the mayor, who would make that decision to see whether it goes ahead or doesn't go ahead. But what's been happening in the past is that it's been predominantly, or if not all, been Pākehā. So there's no Māori voice on that table of decisions. And one of my friends is just over in China, and they sort of seen that the Otakiri water is sort of over in China already. So it's sort of like, you know, if there was a Māori voice in there, at least there would be a connection and a kaitiaki for our wāhi tapu and the things around our community. So when I heard that, it made me really think, like, far out. Maybe my vote doesn't count, but maybe it does. And if it does count and if it does go through, then I was a part of our voice being heard.
Absolutely. I mean, your vote will count in terms of... So unity across our communities is the only way we can go. And there's no person that is being able to bring our connectedness through our whānau hapu niwi, our 7 iwi in our communities. I believe that that's going to be the key, is concentrating on principles of relationships, how that works with each other, looking at the vision in terms of our protection of our resources, particularly the water. And unfortunately, in the last regime, council supported, for the water consents to go through to be extracted, to be taken out of the source and bottled and sold 1.9 billion litres a year.
Wow.
So I in my policy, it's got here, no more water to be sold, so that I stand firmly by that.
Wow, 1.9 billion a year.
Litres of water in bottles being sold over to Asia. So that's locally owned water. That's our water. That's our Otakiri spring and source. That needs to stay locally owned. And if we decide to get royalties and we decide to sell it, then it needs to be a community and iwi decision,
Right.
including our rangatahi, in terms of what we decide to do with our water. It's been taken away from us. So I'll be standing on that position very firmly. No more water to be sold. And council's policies will change to reflect that we need to look after and protect and monitor the water, so that we don't lose the mana whakahaere, the mana kōrero, the mana rangatira over that resource, that taonga. Because it's more to it. There's, for us, there's 3 types of explanations of water. One is I am the water, and the water is me. I own the water. And the other, I sort of believe we have to work with really hard in council. We'll educate and change these attitudes. I pay for the water I use.
Wow.
So there's a huge difference. I am the water and the water is me. I own the water and the other one is, I pay for the water. So that's a big issue for council's policy, needs to reflect I am the water and the water is me, and that it's locally owned, and it will enhance and protect the Māori of the land, the environment, and if the water and the land are well, ka ora te iwi.
Ka ora te iwi. Matua Pouroto, thank you so much for coming on. You definitely have my vote, because as soon as I saw that you're going for mayor, there was immediate connection for me, because, you've done so much for us all already. But jumping into this space, I know that you're courageous. I know that your heart is pure. You've always got the foresight for us as rangatahi, as Māori. Really, for the rangatahi who are out there who are listening, for people who are listening from Whakatane, we have Matua Pouroto here, who is for the people, who is trying to create transformative changes as well as unity. And I think there's that kōrero, it goes, I just went blank, e harataku toa I te toa takitahi, engari te toa takitini. And as you go, we all go. And I really do believe that. So, Matua Pouroto, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for helping to bring understanding and providing that bridge for us all to utilise our power to vote. Utilise that decision of making that conscious choice to try and create changes for us all.
Thank you, Raniera, for the opportunity to our rangatahi. You'd probably ask, why should I vote for Matua Pouroto? Look, the decision is yours. What I really want for you to do is get registered and make sure that you have the opportunity to vote. That is the most important thing. Raniera, I think the other important thing is that each of us plays an important part in terms of making our contribution. My contribution, this is the second time I'm standing for a mayoral candidate. I've been involved with council for 27 years. I've been lucky to have people like the ex and former mayors, Mayor Colin Hammond, Don Herdman, and of course Bob Byrne, who recently passed away. They said I had a big mouth at one meeting talking about rates and said that you have the opportunity to come forward and be considered as a potential mayor and as a leader. So I have been on the chairman as the museum board for council. I've also had the privilege of being the iwi liaison committee chairman for council. I've also been the senior cultural advisor for council from 1994 to now. And I've also been on the Water Plains Committee, which looks after all the water throughout our district. So I'm actually here and available to put my name forward to be considered. I'm really pleased that our Iramutu Raniera has given me the chance and the support to be with you here today to speak to you about the importance of getting out there and vote. And the only way we can make the change, if we want change, like I said, I have only 4 really basic things that I think you need to consider, and that is the taiao, to protect our resources and no more water to be sold. Te mana o te iwi, that the rangatahi's voice is not about just one rangatahi. We want all rangatahi to be heard. And that I can enable that to happen in terms of council engaging and making sure that you're right there with us at the table as we move forward as a community, so that your voice is heard in council. Another thing is whakamana I te tiriti o Waitangi. That's another important relationship that we need in terms of the Treaty of Waitangi and its meaning and purpose for us as community partnerships and relationships with iwi and communities. And last but not least, ngā waihanga. Back to the basics, as I said earlier, Raniera, safer communities, absolutely vibrant communities, good, strong infrastructure in terms of our water, our roading, all those sorts of things that are important to make sure our outer communities also are considered. We must have those changes. Our road safety and making sure that we get equal resources to us all. To our rangatahi, please vote, and I'm hoping that you'll vote for me as your mayor. We need you, we need each other, but the leadership is said so eloquently by our future rangatahi leader here, whakatoa here, descent, mā tātua waka, e hara taku toa I te tō takitahi. You know, my greatness or my leadership is not of mine alone. Engari taku toa I te tō takitini, but actually the unity of us moving together will provide the opportunity for us in council to make change.
E te whānau, e te whānau. Such a huge privilege, Matua Pouroto. Your voice has been heard right around the country, right around the motu, and I know the majority of the time when you get up and do your whai kōrero, you take us all around the journey, around the iwi. You know, which o tau parapara. You say everything to acknowledge all of the iwi, all of the places that you connect to. I listen, I understand, and I'm looking forward to your journey ahead. And just know that I'm there with you. Just know that I do support you. And I really do hope that people have sort of, even if you're not into politics, because that's not my forte as well, but just feel the Māori, feel the aroha that is oozing out of Matua Pouroto, as he's been just so generous just to share some time with us all, to bring a bit of understanding, and as always, dropping some knowledge bombs. No reire te whānau, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one. Mauri ora.
Mauri ora. Mā tātua, tā wharau tia. Tui!
Tui ha!